On today's show, yikes.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everybody. My name is Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot, and you're listening to another edition of Locked On Cavs, which, of course, is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in all of America. You can find this show and any other Locked On podcast anywhere you get them. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that is YouTube as well. Please be sure, give us a thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell on YouTube so you can help out Locked On Cavs grow as big as it possibly can be. And the Cleveland Cavaliers on Wednesday night fall to the Chicago Bulls 127-111 in what has to be a new low for this team. It has to be rock bottom for this team. And just when I think that things can't get worse for the Cavs, they somehow seem to. Because going into the NBA Cup break, I thought that loss to the Golden State Warriors, who did not have Stephen Curry, did not have Draymond Green, did not have Jimmy Butler, did not have Seth Curry, did not have a number of guys. They were essentially the Santa Cruz Warriors as opposed to the Golden State Warriors. And losing that game, I thought, okay, this is now a team that has an opportunity to reset. It is a team that has an opportunity to say, okay, that is as bad as it's going to get. And they respond after 5 days off, and they have a very an uninspiring performance against the Washington Wizards in a game that they win because Donovan Mitchell dragged them to a victory. And then they follow that up with a loss to the Charlotte Hornets at home in overtime. And I thought, oh, okay, this is the new low. And we could have the discussion as to whether or not that loss is worse than the one against the Warriors. I don't think that necessarily matters. And like there are some circumstantial things that went into that Warriors game, but that's not what this is about. And then you watch the Cavs have a couple of days off and you hear how they speak about needing to turn things around and playing with a sense of urgency and all of those things. And then they come out on Wednesday night in Chicago and they lay another egg. It's the same story. Like, truthfully, I don't want you to do this. I want you to listen to this specific podcast and what I have to say about this game against Chicago. I am in Chicago as I record this. I drove here to watch this game and cover this game and podcast about this game and write about this game in my Substack, The Inside Shot. So I don't want you to do what I am saying you realistically could do right now. You know what you could do? You could go to a previous edition of this show after the Cavs lost to the Warriors or after the Cavs lost to Charlotte. And there really aren't many different things to say. Like, I do feel like watching this team over and over and over, and I have been at so many of these games this year. I think I've only missed 5 or 6 of the 28 that they've played so far. So I have watched every single possession that this team has played all season long, not missed anything. I feel like I'm watching the same game. I feel like covering this team right now is some weird version of basketball Groundhog Day, and not in a good way. At times it felt like that last year, but it's like, okay, who's going to go off on Wednesday night and start a Cavalanche and make it so that the Cavs find a way to win this game? Who's going to do that on Saturday because the Cavs were so deep last year? And it felt at times like you're watching the same thing over and over again in a good way. And now we're watching it in a bad way because this game against the Chicago Bulls, like, yes, there are some differences. There are things that are worth talking about, but ultimately it's the same group having the same problem over and over again. The variable is where is the game being played and who is the opponent. And on some nights, Donovan Mitchell can do enough to carry this team to a win. And on Wednesday night, Donovan, I thought, played okay. He was sick, still had 32 points, probably could have had closer to 45 given some of the shots that he missed in this game. Like, I thought he missed a lot of shots in the interior that he normally makes. He was sick. He played through it. At shoot around on Wednesday morning, like, he, to me, did not look like somebody that was in very good health. He has struggled to, he is just not healthy right now because he is sick. And playing through that is admirable, of course. And he played well. He didn't play great. He didn't play poorly. He played well. But it's the same story everywhere else. Like, the Cavs are not getting enough offensively from anybody. They can't shoot right now. They went into Wednesday night's game 28th in three-point percentage in the NBA, despite the fact that they take more threes than anybody else in the NBA. They shot 30.8% on threes against the Bulls. They were 12 of 39, not good, right? Like, we've seen that how many times? They turned the ball over, which I guess, like, that is the variance in this game on Wednesday, because the Cavs truthfully have been pretty good about protecting the basketball so far this year. They turned the ball over, and that led to a lot of points. They got beat in transition. That led to a lot of points. They didn't play very good defense. That led to a lot of points. The Chicago Bulls, who were 1-8 in their last 9 games, just absolutely stomped the Cavs. And like the difference here, and we will talk about the starting lineup that the Cavs changed, right? Like, they made the move to bring DeAndre Hunter off the bench and start Jalen Tyson instead. And we'll talk about that coming up. And the Cavs got off to a good start. Like, the first 8 minutes or so of the first quarter were really good. The starting 5 looked good together. And then when DeAndre Hunter checked in for Donovan Mitchell, things looked really good. And then the Cavs made more substitutions, and the Bulls went to a zone defense, and the Cavs fell off a cliff and never recovered. So, like, there are these minor twists and turns, but ultimately it feels like I'm watching the same game over and over again. And in this one, the Cavs trailed by 15 in the third quarter. And then they hit the gas, right? Like, they go on that run near the end of the third quarter. They cut it all the way down to, I think, 5 at one point, 5 or 6, but it's not enough. They don't have enough in the tank right now. They don't have enough in terms of shot making to get over that hump. They didn't have enough defensively. Like, this team right now is just not a team that I look at and say, yes, you know what? They're really good at this one thing. Like, they're not a bad offensive team. They're not a great offensive team the way they were last year. I don't think they're a bad defensive team. I don't think they're a good defensive team, though. I do think that their defensive rating is a little bit overrated right now. But I don't look at anything and say, you know what? The Cavs are really good at this one thing. They're really, really good at this one thing. Or this is what their identity is. This is what we can expect the Cavs to do well on a night-to-night basis. Aside from Donovan Mitchell, what right now can you expect to see the Cavs do well the next time they play? Friday night against the Bulls at home. What are they going to do well that you can count on as a team? I'm not counting about an individual performance from Donovan. I would even throw Jalen Tyson into that. Like, Jalen had a good game on Wednesday night too, at least offensively. Like, he's been a bright spot this year. But aside from those two, everybody else is a mystery box. And it feels like 1 out of 6 times they put it together and look good. And there have been instances this year where the Cavs have looked really good. They've just been so fleeting, right? Like, there were times in this game where they look good, but they're so inconsistent. And that has led them to be, I would argue, either the most disappointing team in the NBA or the second most disappointing team in the NBA, with the only other team I think in the conversation being the LA Clippers. And yes, injuries matter as part of this, but I don't want to sit here and just say, yeah, you know what? The Cavs are beat up right now, and that's why they're 15-13. They are beat up. Yes, they are. They have lost, I believe, 106 games of player injuries so far this year. That's high ranking in the NBA. They're in the top 6 or 7 in that statistic. They don't have Evan Mobley right now. They don't have any movement shooters right now, which I do think is a really big problem. Not a bigger problem than no Evan Mobley, because Evan is obviously very, very good and an all-NBA talent, but they don't have enough movement offensively. Like, I think this is a group that can get too stagnant offensively, and that's a problem. This is a group that I think loses focus defensively. Like, how many possessions, if you watch this game on Wednesday night, how many possessions can you go back and look and say, the Cavs just lost, like, when the Cavs are on defense, they just lost their assignment on that end of the floor. How frequently in transition do you see them either not communicate or not get back in time, and it leads to easy buckets? And the Chicago Bulls are, yes, a team that wants to push the pace. They want to play fast. They want to do all these things, and the Cavs just acquiesce to it. And that, to me, is one of the biggest problems with this team. And I think the biggest question right now is, why should there be belief? Like, why should they be able to think that they can get out of this? That's a question that after the game I asked Kenny Atkinson that question. I asked Donovan Mitchell that question. I asked Jared Allen that question. And that is the thing that they have answers to. And there are reasons to believe. But right now, if this is not rock bottom, and this just keeps getting worse, because I said after the Warriors game, feels like rock bottom. I said on Sunday after the Hornets game, feels like rock bottom. And they just keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And at a certain point, you dig so deep that you can't get out of it. And that is a problem. And that is where the Cavs are at right now. They just keep finding ways to make this worse. And it doesn't mean it's going to be like this forever, but with every single night, like Wednesday in Chicago, it just makes that uphill climb that the Cavs will need to do if they want to reach their goals. If they want to do that, that uphill climb gets steeper and steeper and steeper with every night like this one. With every night like this one, it gets harder to do. And it's not impossible. And inside that locker room, I can tell you, inside that locker room, they do not believe this is some impossible task. I will say, after being in the locker room for all of these losses, I think I've been at all of their bad losses, save for the game in Atlanta. That's the one, like, and even then, like, Atlanta's a good team. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad loss. But I've been at most of these games. And I can say this is a locker room that is frustrated, but I don't think that this is a locker room that's turning on itself. I don't think that this is a locker room that is ready to give up. I think this is a locker room that, for better or worse, is taking a long view of things. And it is a long season, to be clear. And to be fair to the Cavs, which I'm going to do, the injuries do matter. I don't think that it's something that can be leaned upon. I don't think it's something that really is being mentioned. Like, I do think the Cavs are saying the right things, that they're not being good enough. But man, right now, if things don't start getting better soon, I don't know that they ever will. And that is an issue. Now, Kenny Atkinson was looking for a spark on Wednesday against the Wolves. So he made a move. We'll talk about the change to the starting lineup next, right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Robinhood. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do, locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto, all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney, YOUR money, your money, your move. Today's show is also brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in, to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or the hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits can save you hours each and every week. And knowing that you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you a real peace of mind. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. That is GUSTO.com/lockedonnba. One more time, gusto.com/lockedonnba. Thank you again for making this show, Locked On Cavs, your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day, so now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get this show, Locked On Cavs, with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to the link in the show description, both on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. to learn more. So the Cavs did make a change to the starting lineup on Wednesday because after Jalen Tyson had been on the bench with the Cavs, I use healthy in quotation marks because they're not healthy, but after DeAndre Hunter had started every game that he has played so far this year, they moved him to the bench. Kenny Atkinson decided that it was time for that change to happen, and it was a change I talked about potentially happening, I believe it was on Monday after the game against Charlotte, that this was a thing that could help the Cavs. And at the start, it did. Like, I do think it gave them a spark. The Cavs got off to a good start. They had a very good first, 7.5-ish minutes of the first quarter before the Bulls called that timeout with Cavs up. I believe it was 28-16. And I thought the starting lineup looked good together. I think that having Jalen Tyson in there is the right thing to do for the Cavs. I also look at this and say, and I asked Kenny about this after the game, and one of the things that is important is trying to increase how the Cavs can score off the bench, because right now they don't necessarily have bucket getters on the bench, right? Like Lonzo Ball not scoring the basketball whatsoever. He had another rough night. Craig Porter Jr., they're just very thin with who is out right now. They're very thin in terms of guys that can go get a bucket off the bench. Even when Jalen Tyson, who had 21 points in this game, even when he's coming off the bench, he's not like a sixth man type of scorer that you're looking for. And DeAndre Hunter is that. Hunter is obviously comfortable in that role because it's a role that he has been in the past. Like, you think back to last year, DeAndre came off the bench in, I believe it was all but 2 or maybe 3 games after the Cavs traded for him. One of them was coincidentally the first game he played in Cleveland because Max Strus was out that night. But he has a lot of experience coming off the bench. So I look at this and say this can be a good thing for everybody involved because DeAndre has not had a very good start to the season. I thought he was better on Wednesday night than he has been, and maybe him coming off the bench will get him back into a rhythm, which is something the Cavs so sorely need. They need a much better version of DeAndre Hunter than what they've been getting so far. And this is not to say, the Cavs stink right now because DeAndre Hunter is not good enough. That's not fair, and that's not true. Is he part of their issue right now? Absolutely, because he's struggling from beyond the arc. He was 2 of 6 in this game on Wednesday, which does slightly raise his percentage, actually. Him struggling beyond the arc is part of Cleveland's issue, but that is so far down the list of things that, you can't just sit here and say the Cavs would be better if DeAndre Hunter were better. It's a problem, but there are more pressing things. But I do think that this is a minor tweak from Atkinson that he can make to try and provide a spark. I think that it should, in theory, help the Cavs starting 5 defensively, because DeAndre has really struggled on that end of the floor so far this year, particularly in pick and roll situations. He actually has been, by the numbers, a solid isolation defender, but when he's been put into pick and roll situations, he has been really, really bad. And Jalen Tyson has been average to slightly above average on the defensive end of the floor, basically in every situation, at least according to Synergy. And that is something that that I do think will feel like a big upgrade, but he has to play like it. He has to play really well in this role. And I do think that his skill set fits this role. And I think we're going to see this for a while. I don't know that this is going to be the permanent starting lineup. I think that when Sam gets back, which I would be really surprised if that's Friday. I would not anticipate Sam playing on Friday. And maybe I'll have a little bit more about Sam coming up in the third segment today. I just would not anticipate him playing on Friday. And maybe when Max gets back, he's now in the starting lineup. Maybe when Sam gets back, he's in the starting lineup. Or maybe they stick with Jalen. But I do think the thing that is going to be permanent here is that DeAndre is going to be a guy coming off the bench. And the Cavs need his scoring off the bench, but they also need to have a starting 5 that's a little bit more well-rounded, right? Because they don't necessarily need DeAndre scoring in the starting 5. They need that spot to be one, especially with Darius Garland back on the floor. They need that spot to be, I think, a little bit more defensively focused, and Jalen can bring that to the table. So I do think this is a good move for the Cavs, and I think it was a wise one that Kenny Atkinson made. Ultimately, I'm not going to judge this starting lineup based on one game. This says so much more about the rest of the team than it did the starting lineup, which was really good in the first quarter and really bad in the third quarter, basically. But that's not something that I'm going to sit here and say, yes, Kenny made the right call or made the wrong call. I think it's the right call, but I do look at this and just say it's a little bit early to have a real judgment on it. But I do think that right now the Cavs are a team searching for a spark, and it's a minor change, but it's one that maybe can provide that. Like maybe it can help lift them in some ways, because this is a team that so sorely needs to find ways to be better. And one of the things when talking with Jared Allen after the game on Wednesday night, one of the things he said made a lot of sense to me. And we kind of thought about this before the season, but I think it means something different now. I'll tell you what that is next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Rocket Money. Ever feel like your money just disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, an impulse buy there, and suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Rocket Money finds subscriptions that you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. You can see your spending on one dashboard, makes it easy to understand where your money is going. Plus, Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending. It keeps you on track without having to overthink. So take control of your finances today and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/locked on today. That is Rocket Money, ROCKETMONEY.com/locked on, LOCKEDON. Again, rocketmoney.com/locked on. Thank you again for making today's edition of Locked On Cavs your first watch on YouTube. And please, if you are watching, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest from us here. And this summer, I think the moves the Cavs made were influenced by what happened in the postseason. And I don't think the Cavs are alone by that happening. Like, I think a lot of teams, a lot of summers will see how they fare in the playoffs before. And then they will decide, hey, we have learned this about the group. We need to make these changes. And I think that the series in the second round against the Pacers opened a lot of eyes. I think that's why Lonzo Ball is here, even though that has not worked out at all. I think that's part of the reason why Larry Nance is here, although he has been injured, and even when he has been healthy, he has not been great. But I think the Cavs wanted to emulate the Pacers in some ways, and also realize that they cannot be a team that has role players that can be off the floor because of deficiencies either offensively and or defensively. And I don't look at any of their role players right now and say, yes, that guy can't stay on the floor because he just stinks at one end of the floor or the other. Now, there are guys not playing well that like maybe just can't be on the floor at all because they're not playing well, but I just don't think it's a skill set issue. And I looked at them and they wanted to play faster this year, which in fairness, every team every year says, yeah, we want to up the pace, right? Like, how many times have you heard that from an NBA team during training camp? We hear it every year. But they wanted to emulate the Pacers a little bit in that aspect. And Jared Allen said something that I have mentioned on this podcast a couple of times over the past few weeks, that now they want to start emulating who the Pacers were last year. And it's not in terms of a stylistic thing. They don't want to emulate the Pacers and play super fast or, have that type of roster, because just like they're not the same, and that's fine. They don't need to be the same. But as I have mentioned, the Indiana Pacers last year through 25 games were 10-15. The Cleveland Cavaliers have now played 28 games. They are 15-13. So congratulations to them, because they are ahead of where the Indiana Pacers were last year at this point. But what Jared Allen said was, because he was asked, like, what needs to happen for this to get fixed? And Jared just basically said, time. We don't know how much time, but time. And he said that it's the lack of consistency sometimes. Sometimes they play like the number one seed that they were last year. Sometimes they just play like a team who's trying to figure out, and we are trying to figure out right now. He says, you know what I'm trying to say. And then I followed up, said, why do you say time? Said teams go through ruts all the time, and you see that sometimes it takes time to get out of them. like Indiana last year. It's a perfect point of view. They didn't have the best start to the season. Look at us now. We're in the same position, sort of. Again, the records don't match, but I would imagine that through 25 games, and good friend Tony used to tell you this, like, it didn't feel really good in Indiana last year. And it does not feel real good in Cleveland right now. Like, this feels to me like it needs to be their rock bottom. And I have said that so many times that I'm losing count. And at some point it will be, or at some point they just won't dig out of it. And this will be a season from hell or a lost season, however you want to term it. But this is a group that can still turn it around. And the thing that Indiana did was they found a blueprint. They found an identity. And right now, as I mentioned in the first segment, I want you to ask yourself, what stylistically is the Cavs' identity? Because we know their identity is to play these games where they get down by double digits and they have spent more time trailing. They have trailed, but they have now, after the game on Wednesday night, trailed for half of the game or more, so 24 minutes or more, 17 times in 28 games. Last year in 82 games, they trailed 24 minutes or more 16 times. That is like who they are as a basketball team, but that's not their identity of like what you do on the floor. The Pacers had a very distinct identity and they really leaned into it. So that's why right now, the most important thing for the Cavs might not even be the wins and losses, as crazy as that sounds to say, because I mean, there's a world in which I'm talking to you guys next Monday night and the Cavs are 500, which is wild to me to think about. But they need to, I think more than they need to win basketball games right now, they need to figure out who they are. They need to figure out the things that they're good at. And they need to lean into those things, and they need to make those things their identity, because that is what they have failed at so far this year. That's on the roster. I think that's on the coaching staff. That's on everybody. They have not figured out who they are, and they are 28 games into the season. Maybe that's the most disappointing thing. Maybe it's the effort. Like, there's a lot of things that you can point to and say, that's just not good enough. And you're right about all of them. Now, there is time for it to turn around. That certainly is true, but they need to find an identity, and they need to find an identity quickly. They need to get healthy. That matters too. Like I said, I wouldn't expect Sam Merrill back on Friday. I would imagine he's going to miss that game. Maybe at some point next week he gets back, but even then, I think that this has been a tougher process than anybody envisioned that it would be. He was doing some shooting after shoot around on Wednesday. He did have his hand, like it's the first two fingers on his shooting hand, taped up. But that's a tough situation to navigate because they really, really miss what he provides. And they really, really miss what Max Strus provides. And they really are going to miss Evan Mobley. So, like, they are in a tough spot. But they need to find a way out of this. They still have time. But with each game, like this one on Wednesday night, they start to run out of just time a little bit more every single day. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Cavs. Please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or on YouTube as well, so that you get all the latest episodes. Plus, if you need a last-minute holiday gift or someone keeps asking you what you want, make it easy. Ask for the Everydayer Club. Ad-free episodes of this show, exclusive Discord server access, and so much more. Subscriptions can be gifted through the link in the show description. Check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So please, as we get out of here, do me a favor. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get them. And on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button for us and the notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.